All
We're rolling.
right. Okay,
Roll
perfect. That
that
was
beautiful
fast.
bean footage.
All right, today is Thursday, April 14th. You are here at MS Office Hours. I am one of your co-hosts. My name is Heather Cox, and with me today are the other lovely ladies of this crew.
Hey, everybody. Stephanie Stevens.
Toria Dean.
Andrea Singrio.
And we are very excited to have our dynamic duo from the University of Florida here to talk about What's the Word, Nerds. They're going to give us some new tips and tricks, because this is one of those tools that if you really haven't spent a lot of time in it, you probably haven't been paying attention to what those updates are. So gentlemen, we will turn our cameras and mics off, and the floor is entirely yours.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So normally when I get excited about Office products, and I don't want to be mean here, but Word is not the thing that comes to mind when I'm like, yes, like I'm going to do something cool. But there's actually been some pretty interesting things that have come out in Word that we would love to show you. So, and I guess I should probably start introducing myself. My name is Dewayne Hyatt. I'm a systems administrator for the University of Florida, IFAS, which is the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences. And that's Joe.
And I'm Joe Gasper on the same team, also a system administrator.
We're more or less the same person at this point. So let me get my screen shared, and I am going to get my demo computer up and running here. So I definitely don't want people to switch off because we said Word. I feel like there's probably some things in here that maybe you haven't seen, or in a few cases, I think there's some things that we're going to show you that we use a lot that might be unique. I don't know. So we're going to
I think there's an opportunity to kind of play along too, if you want.
Yeah, definitely. If you open up your browser and hit office.com and log into Word for the web, because that's where we'll start. And let me go ahead and do that here. So because Microsoft likes to keep you on your toes, the features that are in Office Desktop will differ from the features that are in Office Online. So sometimes you might see something that works in Office Online and doesn't work in the desktop, and vice versa. So let me go ahead and start. Or actually, I have a document already that I want to test. And this is a document that I maybe wrote, I guess we'll find out here in a second if I wrote it or not, on a pesticide called permethrin. I have it open in both the Office Online as well as on my desktop so that we can compare those differences. But the first thing that I'd like to show off is that Microsoft Editor, and you're starting to see this pop up in a few different places. It's available in some cases in Outlook. It's available in Word Online. And depending on what update ring your systems are in, it may or may not be available in Word on the desktop. Our systems are in the monthly enterprise channel because that's the only channel that you can rely on updates to be released on a very specific cadence. So if you are a sysadmin and used to Patch Tuesdays, well, monthly enterprise channel is the only one that's going to stick to a specific cadence. The other update rings kind of release, I don't know, whenever they feel like it, I guess. So they keep you on your toes there. So I run my update rules in my endpoint management software once a month. So we're on monthly enterprise. But Editor is a fantastic thing. If you're familiar with other products that do grammar analysis, Editor is built right in without keylogging your computer. So you can have it look directly at a document and give you some feedback on how that document is actually constructed. So I'm going to go through a few of the things here. And again, I'll flip back and forth between desktop and Office. So you can decide of your style of writing, if this is a formal letter, a professional document, or if you're just casually writing something. And Editor, there we go. Editor will give you a few little bits of feedback here. So first of all, I've got a repeated word. I'm going to leave that there for now just because I want to show something off. a little bit later. And I've also got some feedback on clarity. I could do a better job if I used a different word here, perhaps, according to editor. And I did pretty well on all these other categories because I didn't mangle this document too bad. As we move down, this is a big one, checking for similarity in online sources. So if I click on this, editor is going to reach out onto the web, and it's going to look for these same sequence of words inside of another source. So if I click on this first one, you can see it's underlined 2 options for me here. And it's also shown me I haven't reviewed either of those options yet. So if I click on it, it will take me to this option here. And it looks like this sentence may actually be a complete ripoff of a, oh, what's that site? UFL.edu. So if I wanted to, I could, admit that I didn't write this, and I could add a citation directly into my document, and it will go ahead and give me the article number, in this case, of what we have a system inside of the University of Florida called EDIS, which is where we have publications done. And you can change the type of citation that you want to do depending on what your preference is. And then here we have another one where if I use my subjective judgment here, I'll say that it's just possible that 2 people would have said that exact sentence in the same sequence. Those words were put in the same sequence, and that's probably okay. But this other one here, matching directly to a published scientific paper, you might want to watch that one. So this is a big one for educators as well as for students who are submitting papers to make sure that they didn't, copy paste a little bit too much. And it's the thing that Joe and I always talk about with our users is this kind of stuff. We always promote using stuff that's built right in. It didn't require a download. It didn't require an Office add-in. It didn't require an end user license agreement or another account or something like that. This was just a couple of clicks. Editor was right there on the toolbar. We also have some document stats, Joe, that you showed. There's a couple different ways to get this, but this is a, how would you call it, more convenient way of getting some document stats?
Often we find, you might need to input some content into a form somewhere, maybe a web form. And sometimes they say, so many words or so many characters. This can kind of give you an idea of you might write your information into Microsoft Word so you can use editor and make sure it's done very well, and then paste that into an online form in some way. This is a way to kind of expose the fact that you're meeting a character limit or word limit and something like that. The other one that maybe this one is too short of a document is the readability. And often our users are writing documents, for the citizens of our state, and they might be used to writing scientific papers, but maybe they need to switch their mode around a bit, and they're writing a blog post and trying to make that more accessible, and kind of a way to see how accessible is what they've written around readability, and make sure it meets their needs of their intended audience.
Yeah, I changed the text there because I realized it was too short for editor to actually evaluate it. But in this is a copy paste from, I think it was the New York Times, something about Amazon is going to compete with SpaceX, put some internet satellites up in space, and empower the world to have some more internet, which I'm all for. But if you go to document stats, you're going to get a readability score. In this particular document, it's suggesting that this requires a college reading level in order to be able to interpret this document. So we encourage our agricultural extension agents. Their primary mission is to engage and extend learnings and best practices and research generated by our university to the people who live in their respective county. So when they're doing that, their audience is going to be incredibly broad. So writing a document that requires a college level degree in order to interpret might not give them the impact that they're looking for. So these types of metrics and the ability to do this type of analysis on a document really, really quickly, and it enables them to maybe rethink the document before they publish it. And we're suggesting to them now, you might be writing a Facebook post, write it in Word first, and then to copy and paste it over into Facebook so that you're getting this type of analysis of the document before you actually send it out to social media or a blog post or something like that. And just to show, it looks like in this particular version of Word, so if you go to File, Account, you'll be able to see what version of Word you're on, and you'll also be able to see what update channel your enterprise is using. So I'm on 2203, and I've got Editor built right into the desktop version as well. And I get those same exact options that I had in Word Online. Oops, it's still calculating. Well, that looks different, doesn't it, Joe? So it's pretty close. You get the ease score is the same, but you don't get the nice, I guess, grade level 14.2 is college. I was never in grade 14. I don't remember that one. But I like the online one there a little bit better. The next thing I'm going to show you that is a Word web only feature that I love is we're going to open up a new document, and you've probably all seen Dictate. Dictate's been around for quite a while, but in the web only version of Word, if you click this little caret here, you actually get a transcribe option. So when you click transcribe, it's going to tell you that you can feed it any audio or video file that you want. So I'm going to click upload audio. I have got, Joe and I use this every month for our podcast. So let me go and pick a different episode here. And so we're going to upload this file. And once this file has been uploaded, Microsoft Word is going to go through this entire file, and it's going to transcribe all the audio from this MP3. So I've actually got one already that I just did a few minutes ago. So instead of waiting on it, but we have seen, what was you say, Joe? It's like 20 minutes of audio takes 1 minute of processing.
It was
roughly,
around that, yeah,
maybe?
15, 20 minutes to 1 minute.
Yeah, somewhere in there. So because I've already transcribed this particular file, the transcription is now connected to it and associated with it. So I can go onto this file and I can see all the text and all the spoken word throughout this entire episode. And it's identified different speakers. Now, if I want to listen, let me share my audio here. If I want to listen to this particular part, whoops,
The shift show.
that's not right. If I want to listen to this particular part, I click
Funny
the
you should
timestamp.
ask. Seeing as how I
So I know that was Joe, right? So let me go here and I'll hit this little pencil and I'll say Joe. And I can now click this box that says everywhere that it's identified Joe's voice and got him, labeled as speaker 2, I can click Joe and click confirm, and then boom, that's all Joe. I'm apparently speaker 3 today. Change it all. I don't know what that was. We'll call that an anomaly. And I know that we had another person, maybe not on this one. We didn't have another person. So you also have the opportunity when you click the pencil to go in here and edit it. But I personally don't find that significantly useful, because if you go down to the bottom of it here, you can click the little drop down and you can say, I want to add this entire transcript with the speakers and the timestamps into my document. So once you do that, we'll give it a couple of seconds, because this is 45 or 50 minutes. Yeah, 45 minutes worth of audio. It's going to lag out my browser. There we go. So now I have the entire transcript has been moved over into my document. Now I can export it as a PDF. I can also edit it because, apparently it doesn't know how to do hashtags for us, right? And it also misspelled a few things. It's not a Gust expert. That must have been me talking with my redneck speech. We had a guest expert. And so we can clean it up here before we actually send it off to as a PDF. You can also do some other interesting things here, like you could run this through translation inside of Microsoft Word if you wanted to have maybe a Spanish transcript alongside with an English transcript. But you can do this with any audio file that you want. Now, one thing I will tell you that I have noticed is there is a limit on this. It's 5 hours of transcription time per user per month. Don't know why. I don't know why. You used to be able, I know Steve's on here. If you remember that thing called Stream, it would transcribe everything for you. It still does technically, but there was no limitation on how much you could transcribe through Microsoft Stream. So I'm not really sure why there's a limitation here on Word, but this is kind of an ad hoc, if I needed to create, again, a transcript or upload some meeting minutes, or maybe even think about, old school type meetings. You just stick your phone in the middle of the table and have everybody recorded, and then you could digitize that entire meeting and have meeting notes taken still, even if it wasn't, an online meeting. In 2022, all of our meetings feel like they're online, but.
And we have our agents, some of them have started their own podcasts now and can use this for, increasing accessibility for those and using this as a transcript. It's not producing what you might need for closed captioning.
Correct.
But it is, it is performing that process for, and able to provide a PDF file of that podcast.
Yep. And that's a really good point, is you're not going to get an SRT or a VTT out of this. You are literally going to get a transcript that you could use, again, for meeting minutes, notes, podcasts, those types of things. You could do that here. And if you were doing this in a, obviously Teams is going to give you a transcript that you can download as a VTT. But this would be for if you had something else, like you'd done something through an audio recorder, or you had another video that you had gotten from somewhere. You could transcribe. That video, because it did show, I believe, when we went to upload the transcript, that you could even upload an MPEG-4 to it. So while we're in transcribe and dictate, let me open up a new one. I'm going to tell you another thing that we like to do that's not exactly new, but the dictate function has been there for quite a long time. So if I push the dictate button, it's going to start recording my voice and then transcribing it into text. One thing that I really like to do with this function is I do a lot of training videos, a lot of training content, and I do like to have a script for when I record those videos, but I also don't like it to sound like I am a robot and I'm reading from a script. So what I'll do is I'll fire up Microsoft Word and I will do I'll do a transcription of whatever it is I'm about to talk about. Then I'll stop, and then I'll go back in and I'll clean it up a little bit in case I misspeak or do something, say something dumb or whatever. I'll clean it up, and then I'll use that as my quote unquote script when I record my training video, because then the words are still mine. It's still my language. It's still my way of speaking. It's still a natural Dewayne, whatever you want to call it, but I can read from it and not sound like I'm repeating something off of a teleprompter or reading something from a pre-canned, script. So that's a thing that I really like to use with that. Joe, there was an acquisition pretty recently that might really change transcription too, right? Like, kind of
I think certainly for the medical field and scientific field, the company, I think originally around Dragon Naturally Speaking, Nuance.
Nuance. Yep.
Nuance.
Yeah. So that was
Thanks.
it.
Yeah. That should help improve some, transcription around scientific words and medical terms and, options like that.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if it affects in agriculture. We've got Latin names for plants and caterpillars and all kinds of stuff. So I'm really curious to see if the Nuance acquisition really helps with that kind of stuff as well. Because if that makes its way over into the transcript, capability, that would be super duper cool. So very, very happy about that. And then one of the last thing, well, actually not the last thing I'm going to show you, and then Joe is going to show you some super cool like ninja tricks inside of Word, is Immersive Reader. So let me stop this. And I'm going to go back over to my permethrin document, which is no longer about permethrin. It's about spaceships. I really, really, really have been using Immersive Reader a lot lately. I'll be honest, I feel bad saying this. I kind of glossed over it. It's not new. It's been out for a long time. It just wasn't ever something that I felt like I ever needed. But once I actually started using it, and again, I would credit Joe for this, he said, hey, we could use this to really zero in on a document and make sure it's correct and looks the way that we want. So if you go to the view button up on your ribbon here and you drop yourself into Immersive Reader, you really get this broken out, distracting view of this document. And where Joe and I have been using this lately is if we're submitting a proposal to speak for whatever it is, a session or something like that, we'll write it up in Word and we'll use Immersive Reader to make sure that it looks right. But most importantly, we'll use Immersive Reader to make sure it sounds right. Asterisk, we have found that in our current version of Word, again, on the monthly enterprise channel, the voice that it uses is not the best. It's an older one. If you use Word Online, you'll get the nice natural sounding one. And if you use current channel of Office, you'll get the nice sounding one. But if you do read aloud.
Amazon's Project Kuiper said it secured up to 83 planned launches that would ferry satellites to orbit over a 5-year stretch. The unit of the Seattle-based e-commerce giant hasn't sent up any satellites yet, though it has said it will have 2 prototypes launched this year.
That voice to me is so good. That doesn't sound like a text-to-speech robot. That sounds, yeah. Did they model that after Heather? I see in the chat. That's pretty funny. So it's nice to see, or rather hear, a voice that is natural. It's following commas and it's doing natural pauses in between words that you would normally do, which is awesome. And so you can write up a document and then you can sit there and you can read it, but you could actually have Word read it back to you. And you're going to pick up on things that you might not normally have thought of, like that word doesn't sound right in that specific position. And you can make minor edits here. So you could still go in here and you can see the blue underscore, like editor is still giving me stuff. It's still talking about like editor still working in this view. It's not completely locked in. So I could do, I don't know, a different word here in many cases. Maybe that sounded better than in some cases. And if you put your mouse cursor, let's say like right here and hit play, it will start from that point. Give it a second to analyze the document, and then it will start going.
Agencies racing to send broadband satellites into low Earth orbit. In many cases in markets betting they.
So I think that using this, again, I would use Word even just temporarily to be able to get these features, to be able to analyze the text of something that I'm writing before I upload it to, like an online form or something like that. Or even before I make a LinkedIn post now, I'm putting stuff in Word and I'm making sure it sounds, as professional as I can sound. And then before I submit it online.
Yeah, there's something about having it read back to you in a different voice. You're not on, you could record this in your voice and have it played back to you, but just that little change can help you pick up on some nuances in what you wrote and help you write a little better document.
Nuances, huh? All right, Joe, you've got some things for us that I had no idea Word could do. Are you ready?
Sure. I will take over some sharing here and see if I can help people play along also.
While you're doing that, I see Mary is kind of saying the same thing. She uses Immersive Reader to check for errors. I've heard a gentleman tell us that he used Immersive Reader to review a contract, you know, because it really helped him focus on the language of the contract. And I thought that was a really good use of it too. Sorry, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. I think we got good time here. Dewayne was kind of showing you some things that are fairly new in Word, or new ways to use them. Just want to try to expose some things that have been there for a little while that you might not have known. So I'm going to give you this list of words, or I'm sorry, names here. Some fake names. Actually, a nice little PowerShell module that can randomly generate some names. So sometimes we are given a list of names. Maybe we're given a list of place names and a city and a state. And I'm sure probably Excel is our go-to for sorting data. But if you're trying to write a Word document, there's actually a way to just take this data and sort it. So we've got this short little list of names. I can highlight this list of names. And on the Home tab, I have a sort icon. And if I just click that sort icon and hit OK, it's going to sort it as row by row, basically paragraph by paragraph. But I actually can dive into that deeper, because that's first name and last name. And maybe I want this sorted by last name and then first name. We also click that icon with those items selected. There is an options button. I click this options button. I can decide how this data is separated. One of the options here is tabs, commas. That's pretty common. We'll have. I can just do other, and in this case, we just have a space. If I choose that option, and now in my sort by, I've got word 1 and word 2. And in this example, word 1 is going to be our first name, and word 2 is going to be our last name. I can select word 2, and then let's see, what is it? I've got a couple last names to start with P, so I want to make sure the first name is also sorted properly after the last name is. So I can change that. Next, sort by word 1, hit OK, and now I have those sorted out right inside of there. So I didn't have to jump into Excel, copy from Excel. Maybe I copy from Excel and I get a table over here, and I just need some simple words over here. One more thing I want to show is, let me put this in. Also a cheat from, don't have to go to Excel or a calculator, but if you put in something that looks like a formula, there is an option that you can get to from, used to be a calculate button, now it's called Tools Calculate. And you can find these options and add them to your toolbar under File, Options, and Quick Access Toolbar. Quick Access Toolbar is a great place to find every single solitary command that's in Word, all commands that are not in your ribbon, anything and everything that is there, you can go and find and put them in a quick launch and have them accessible to you at all times. So I've just put this Tools Calculate. If I can highlight this, hit Tools Calculate, it goes into my clipboard, and there's my perfect answer of everything in life, universe. Next thing I want to show is we sometimes have to produce org charts, and everybody at this point scrambles often for something like Visio. We can just do that right inside of Office and Microsoft Word also. And one thing to use is, I want to create an org chart. How do I do that in Word? I can come up into the search bar, and let's just type org chart. And I can say, get help on org chart. Here's some examples on how to do it. Quick way, it's going to be something to do with smart art. If I want to go into the details of that, I can click on how to create an org chart, and this is going to take me all the way through how to do this type of operation. I can come in here, I go to Insert, Smart Art, and I want to insert a hierarchy. Let's pick this org chart. I've got an org chart. And I can make this very quick, very easy. I can even make some changes to the format of it. Let me just put some names in here. And now I can easily start adding. So let's say I've got a couple people that I might manage. If I manage those folks, they've been added under my name, Joe. And if I hit tab, they're going to start to form that hierarchy. And if perhaps I don't like the way that this is showing, let's add some folks to Andrew. I can come into my little org chart, my little place, and I can choose to change the way this looks. And there's a layout. Maybe I want this to be left hanging, and Andrew could be right hanging. Now it fits better. It might fit nicer in what you're trying to, produce your document and show up a little nicer like that. One more thing that's built right in is often we use Word to create documents that are maybe standard operating procedures, process diagrams, and you might jump out. I'm sure you can use, snip right inside of Windows, screenshot. A lot of people use different types of products, but if we just go into insert, there is a screenshot capability just built right into Word. No need to jump out, go somewhere else, find another tool. I can do screen clipping. Here's Office Home. I can take a screen clipping of that. That's going to just drop it right into my Office document right where I was at. That is, we got 2 minutes. I think I'll stop there. The next one might take a little longer, so.
The org chart thing always blows my mind that you can just tab things around. I mean, you don't get the drag and drop like you would in Visio, but everybody owns Word. So,
And if I had $1 for every time I had a question about, do we have Visio licenses as part of our agreement? How many times have we, Heather, in our own internal chat been like, who's our contact for Visio?
We love Visio, though. We do love Visio.
Yeah.
Visio, doesn't Visio still have the ability to actually pull that org chart information from Active Directory?
It requires, I think, Plan 2. So it's not in the free version of Visio you get now. That's just web. You do have to go into the advanced version of that capability.
That is something I learned.
I actually want to use is going to be in the paid version.
dollar bills.
Did
Well,
I
Word's
just see
free.
somebody mention publisher?
Oh my, what a relic.
What is this publisher?
Yeah. It was right next to the thing Indiana Jones was digging out of a vault in Cairo. That's where publisher is.
I love me a publisher calendar. It's
for the
still the
company
best.
that I worked for in 1994 using publisher. So yeah, I know.
Hilarious.
And
Oh
my
gosh.
banners in my classroom, publisher.
Hilarious.
Publisher.
Dwayne, Joe, you guys rocked it again. Thank you guys so much for this. Steve said it, but as we always say, this is a reference point, something that we'll be able to share out for folks who, I learned about 10 new things as I was sitting here. So it's awesome. Everybody can learn something. So thank you guys again. Heather, you want to wrap us up?
Yes, thank you all for coming. We will see you again next week. We are here next week.